If you're a Minecraft player, you've probably seen all kinds of experiments in the game, from redstone creations to insane simulations with 100 players. But today, we're going to see something better and much more disturbing than all of that, something that will be able to keep you up at night. Have you ever imagined if in reality your own world, your house, and even you were all part of a big experiment? Well, get your popcorn ready because we're going to investigate this mystery that has a lore as good as Dream SMP, as good as Dream SMP. Well, I accidentally came across a channel called DECAYED. The first video had a pretty simple title, Strange Bugs in Minecraft Bug Report, #1. The thumbnail was harmless, just a random image from a pretty cliche gameplay, nothing special, right? Something seemed strange, something inexplicable. Being curious, I clicked to see what it was about. From that moment on, I was dragged into a bizarre spiral of events that honestly felt like a cross between a Black Mirror episode and that horrible feeling of being in a cave and hearing those cursed Minecraft sounds. Right away, the video showed two players walking through a forest. One of them was called Sandy, while the other was his friend Cargo. It seemed like just another afternoon in the world of Minecraft, nothing out of the ordinary. They were chatting, talking about how the mining had gone and how they hadn't found many resources. Man, I think we need to go back. We still don't have the best equipment. Up to that point, everything was pretty normal. They go to the storage room, put away their items, and decide it was time to mine a little more. However, from that point on, things started to get really weird. As soon as they went down to layer 1, everything seemed to be going according to plan until they came across lava and decided to go back, just like any sensible player would. They then headed back up the stairs to go home. Curiously, the video restarts at this point. Seriously, out of nowhere, the video starts again from the exact starting point. Didn't that make any sense? Even Sandy, the character we were following, seemed to notice something was wrong. He typed in the chat, quote, why am I back here? Meanwhile, Cargo repeated the same lines as if stuck in a non-player character loop, oblivious to anything strange. Quote, we still don't have the best equipment. Sandy was clearly confused and wondered if Cargo could hear him. However, all of Cargo's responses were exact copies of his previous lines. It seemed like someone hit replay, but only Sandy realized it. And as if that wasn't strange enough, a weird figure appeared in the background. Between two trees, a dark shadow was lurking, something that definitely wasn't there before. Who or what was that? Considering that the video quality was intentionally very low, you couldn't see many details, but the presence of that thing made the situation even creepier. They return to the mine, but Sandy is disturbed and no longer wants to continue mining. Quote, this isn't funny, Cargo. Can you stop now? He typed, but of course, Cargo kept repeating the same lines as before. The discomfort was palpable both for Sandy and for those watching, in this case me. And once again, in a loop, they were going down to the mine, with Sandy getting more and more irritated. Quote, this is getting really weird, Cargo. Are you listening to me? He typed that, but once again he was ignored. Suddenly, the perspective shifts and we see through the eyes of that mysterious figure among the trees watching from a distance. By then, I was on the edge of my seat, fully immersed in the madness. Each new scene grew stranger, with Cargo repeating his actions, but Sandy realizing he was trapped in a time loop. Moving on to the second video, titled Strange Minecraft Bugs Report Debug #2, the loop restarted, but Sandy remained aware that something was wrong and decided not to follow the usual path. Rather than returning home, he did something surprising. He didn't run into the forest. Instead, he typed frantically while running, thinking, I need to get out of here. Meanwhile, Cargo kept repeating the same robotic lines as before, as if he was stuck in a script he couldn't break away from. Sandy ran for a while and then reached the end of the world. Yes, he literally reached the edge of the map, a cliff that led straight into infinity. It was as if he was trapped in a poorly programmed simulation. As Sandy gazed at the world's end in confusion, the shadowy figure reappeared, still unnoticed by Sandy. Sandy, now terrified, hesitated before running back home, unsure of who or what was following. Upon arrival, something stranger awaited him, or rather, didn't. Cargo had vanished. He was nowhere to be found, not in the warehouse, mine, or even Cargo's bed, which had vanished. Sandy grew more desperate, realizing he was now alone in that world with no help, explanations, or escape. And then, things got even worse. As Sandy searched for his lost friend in the mine, walking through a new endless corridor, dark stains emerged on the walls, floor, and ceiling. Patches of darkness spread globally as Sandy progressed. Could it be a graphical bug? A sign that the world was falling apart? The game's music turned distorted and disturbing. A new message appeared on the screen in blue text. It's been days since I talked to him. He hasn't played Minecraft with me in so long. I hope everything is okay. Where is he? Where is he? End quote. Who could be writing this? Who was speaking? Could it be Cargo trying to communicate in some way? Sandy wasn't writing, but the message was there. And while I was trying to understand what was happening, the screen cut to Sandy's house once again with the doors wide open. In the next video titled Limbo, everything got even creepier. That's because the description, which was previously written from Sandy's perspective, usually something like more footage of strange things happening in my world, now says something completely bizarre. Quote, signs, period, something is amiss, he has achieved sentience which shouldn't occur. What am I going to tell him? End quote. Sentience, for those who don't know, is the ability to feel and experience sensations and emotions consciously. So this description is clearly referring to Sandy, who now knows that something is wrong. In the video, Sandy was once again alone in the world with no signs of Cargo. This time, he seemed determined to explore every corner of the map, and trying to figure out what was going on, we noticed that his house was strangely modified. A painting appeared out of nowhere. Then, that same painting, which was previously an angel, now displayed flowers. It was a subtle detail, but very creepy. With every step Sandy took, things got even weirder. When he left the house and walked across the plains, he soon found himself at the edge of the world, where the map ended. This time, he was more cautious and realized he could walk over the canyon on invisible blocks. Suddenly, a gate appeared on the horizon. Yes, a gate as if it were a portal to something beyond what the original server offered. Very similar to the movie The Truman Show, a very old film, and it's likely a reference. And after crossing the gate, Sandy found himself in a place that looked like nothing he or I had ever seen before. The world was distorted, with bizarre colors and shapes that defied the game's logic. It was as if the very code had collapsed, resulting in a corrupted landscape full of dark and deformed blocks, all contained within a long corridor. Sandy, clearly confused, typed, "What is this?" and the only response he got was an error message saying unauthorized access, the chat was blocked. As Sandy continued exploring, he found a sign that said, "Experiment, 6,780,136 without hesitation." He opened the door and found something even more bizarre on the other side, an animated portal made of blocks with moving textures. Sandy, who had nothing left to lose, decided to jump into the portal. The transition was abrupt. Sandy appeared back in the world he was playing in before, but something was wrong. He was watching himself as if he were a spectator of his own game. Sandy was watching his own version, having that same conversation with Cargo, discussing how they needed to mine more. It felt like being trapped in a failed experiment, with the world stuck in a surreal, endless loop. Sandy was now in an observatory, a place created to monitor what was happening in that world. He couldn't interact with his other self, nor with Cargo. His commands in the chat were blocked, and the only thing he could do was observe. After more wandering, Sandy found another mysterious door. This time, it took her to a new world where her alternate self and Cargo were discussing the construction of a castle. Sandy recognized the dialogue immediately. Remember this information for later. He remembered that he and Cargo had already built a castle before. It was as if he was watching a memory being replayed. And then, the shadowy figure appeared again, now closer than ever. This time, the name above his head was clear, Voyard, or the one who sees in French. Who was this person? A supervisor? It was becoming apparent that this mysterious figure, whether a player or programmer, was somehow orchestrating the entire experience. Sandy kept walking through corridors and rooms, trying to understand what was happening. Then something unexpected happened. Sandy found herself in a world of chaos with a sky of strange shapes and a ground riddled with enormous holes. Amidst the chaos, he spotted two unfamiliar players. They were building a house as if everything was normal, but when they looked up, they noticed Sandy floating above their heads. Someone asked, "Who is that guy? Is he flying over our house?" When they realized they couldn't make sense of it, the players simply ignored the situation and continued with their normal activities. Suddenly, a glitch sound took over the screen and Sandy found himself in front of another door again. However, this one was different. Above it was written "unstable." What does that word mean? Could this be Sandy's original world? Well, he didn't hesitate and jumped into the portal, landing directly in a silent and eerily dark world with no other players around, which already indicated that this was indeed the original world he had left. Pretty much everything was wrong. The place seemed familiar, but completely corrupted. He realized he had made a mistake and immediately tried to go back, but the button that used to take him back to the corridors didn't work anymore. He was trapped there alone. The video concluded with the screen fading to darkness, ending with a final shot of the path leading to where Sandy's house once stood. At the end of the video, a message appears in the chat coming from someone named Ezek04. It simply said, "Who was that? Another supervisor? Another employee behind the simulation?" That's what the name suggested, at least. The next video was titled Meeting, and the description said the following: "Somehow he managed to get out of his own world. I need to talk to him." Sandy then starts back in the world and again alone, but now he knows about the portal at the end of the world that leads to the corridors and goes straight there. However, the portal vanished. Frightened, Sandy keeps running until eventually he's transported to that same world with the distorted sky, where he saw two other players, but this time he's able to communicate through the chat. Neither of them remembers seeing him before, even though they clearly noticed when he flew over them. The players act normally and offer resources to Sandy. When he opens one of the chests, the screen flashes and strange sounds start as if something very wrong has been triggered. Sandy then runs back outside. Another message suddenly appears in the chat from someone named Ezekiel03. The conversation is as follows: "Sandy, who are you?" "Sandy, stop. Regardless of your signals, you're crossing the line. How did I get here? Listen." And from this point on, Sandy loses the ability to send messages in the chat again, but Ezekiel keeps talking. A pop-up message suggests that Ezekiel 3 has gone to Limbo. At this point, we discover that Limbo is the dark dimension with doors and portals. This is revealed when the perspective suddenly shifts to Ezekiel 03's point of view. He visits Sandy's original unstable world and begins conversing with Ezekiel 7. In the conversation, they basically say that it's wiser to close off access to that world so that, quote, "this doesn't reach Sandy," unquote, and it's not clear what this is. A third figure on the map, known as the Spectator, remains stationary, observing everything. Ezekiel 3 says that the Spectator seems to be working fine, but that even so, they should close the world through a command. Ezekiel 7 explains that if they needed to enter again, they could do it using another command or through the Limbo itself. And then, Ezekiel 03 mentions something strange. He mentions something strange. "If I need to check something about the world, I can use the terminal, right?" At that point, my theory was that the terminal was like a network of cameras that monitored all the experiments. The cameras were actually the viewers. But we don't have the exact answer, and before the video ends, Ezekiel 07 says a very enigmatic phrase about Sandy. Quote, "His memories were erased before we brought him into this strange world." The video concludes with a darker, distorted image of the house and its occupants. And now, the title of the next video was Un Voyeur, which in French means sender, or the one who sends. From now on, almost all the titles will be in French. Even before viewing, I noticed something very sinister in the description. In it, there were 16 numbers in a row with some kind of code. This made it very clear that if I wanted to understand more about the simulation our dear Sandy is in, I would have to pay attention to the smallest details. The video begins from the perspective of ZX09. And you can notice this because ZX03's perspective had level 3 experience on the toolbar, and this one has level 9. That's right, Selbit, get ready because Amine also solves puzzles. He starts the video at what seems to be the world's lowest point. He walks towards a corridor with rooms different from the Limbo and enters a room filled with numbered chests. He opens chest number 9, which leads me to believe that they're lockers, like those in schools. He takes a file to room 9 where he uses a computer to chat. We can only read his part of the conversation, which says the following. Quote, "He's getting involved where he shouldn't again. He was found in the world. Hashtag 1296512511819. He found out about the true house. He knows too much now. We closed it, but he managed to get in. We're not absolutely sure how to stop him, and it's possible you might have to intervene. You can't just watch what's happening. Hello." And the conversation ends, and that's fine, with the second part of the dialogue being a bit hard to figure out all the answers, but it's easy to understand that Ezekiel 9 is describing what just happened to Sandy. He no longer had access to Limbo through the end of the world, but he just kept walking and simply appeared in that distorted world with the other two players in a way that Ezekiel 9 can't explain. It's also clear that the person receiving the messages is some kind of boss or supervisor, since Ezekiel says they're not sure how to stop Sandy and that maybe the figure will have to intervene. All very interesting. Despite its brevity, this video was quite informative. Unfortunately, the following video is even more bizarre. In it, Sandy starts in the normal world but types in the chat that command that Ezekiel 7 gave to Ezekiel 3 in case he needed to return to the stable world they had decided to close. It's unclear how Sandy discovered this command. Actually, the more time goes by, the more I'm sure that Sandy himself knows a lot of things that we don't know. He uses the command ending up in the stable world. From here on, I suggest you sit down as things will intensify. He enters the house walking past the spectator. Inside, the bed, crafting table, and painting are gone. He goes down the stairs where it used to be the storage room, but this time he finds a door. He goes through and finds a room that didn't exist before, a kind of bunker. He explores the area, discovering a room with a bed and a chest containing 4 books, each labeled with a different month. June, July, August, and September, as if they were diaries. Spoiler, they are. All were written by someone named Matthew. The first one, from the month of June, is basically a vent about how Matthew misses playing Minecraft multiplayer and ends with him saying that he invited someone named Andrew to play. He closes the book and types something odd. It all feels strangely familiar. In the July book, Matthew says he was sick for 2 days but continued playing a lot. He also mentions discovering a strange creature in the game for the first time. He also mentions that another guy, someone named Thomas, has now entered the world and that the 3 of them decided to build a castle together. Sounds familiar, right? And this already connects directly with that world he observed, where he and Cargo mentioned that they wanted to build a castle. And this makes it clear that Sandy is definitely one of the 3, and I would guess Andrew because the nickname for that name is Andy. His name suggests something, but the situation deteriorates further. According to him, in the July book, he states, he concludes the book by describing the creature after mentioning his other 2 friends also began to fall ill. They saw it again and reported it had a 03 on its head. Ezekiel 03 is the likely culprit. In Augusto's book, he states that the disease only affects teenagers and he believes it's being spread through Minecraft. In the last book from September, he says he might die the next day and then starts writing nonsensical things, suggesting he's going crazy. The last page ends with a chilling message, quote, I am part of this now, I belong to this now, and this was decided from the beginning. Sandy gets desperate, puts away all the books and turns around, and there he finds the last person he expected to see, his friend Cargo. Hey man, Cargo, how'd you end up here? I was looking for you. Don't think we should be here. You're acting weird, man. What's going on? The music starts to get louder and distorted and Cargo replies, can we go back please? And then Sandy realizes, no, you're not Cargo. And he starts running desperately. Cargo keeps chasing after him, begging him to stop, but Sandy keeps running away. As he descends the mine stairs, Cargo says something strange. Are you going to regret this moment? Are you always going to be the mistake known for destroying everything? It becomes clear that it wasn't Cargo, or if it was, he was always part of the simulation. And that would make a lot of sense, considering that Ezekiel 3 talked to Sandy about him. Your friend isn't coming back, Sandy. Your friend never even played with you. The next video is titled Receptar, derived from the French receptor, meaning recipient. The title made even more sense when I watched it. The video was from the perspective of someone we had never seen before, a guy named Architect who starts chatting on the computer. Only his lines are available, and it's soon clear who he was talking to.
Quote, go ahead, unbelievable, honestly I'm disappointed in all of you. All you had to do was shut down the world, but you didn't. Listen, you have 63 work colleges. You guys are the ones who need to figure this out. You're on your own.
But now, if we go back to the previous video and play dialogue 2x9 at the same time as this one, we get the whole conversation. Let's see.
Honestly, I'm disappointed in all of you. All you had to do was close the world, but you didn't close it. Listen, you have 63 co-workers, you guys are the ones who need to handle this, you're on your own. And the video ends.
Despite its brevity, the video is highly informative. There are probably 63 XXs. The description is highly relevant, containing multiple sentences depicting symptoms that closely match those Mathieu mentioned in his diary. However, more than that, there are exactly 16 words using the 16-number code taken from the description of the other video, each number indicating the letter of the respective sentence. We found the following: body without soul. What does that mean? Does it mean that Cargo was never actually a real player? And who is this so-called architect? What happened to Matthew, Andrew, and Thomas? How is this related to what's happening with Sandy? If you want to know all these answers and keep investigating this square mystery as good as Dream SMP, subscribe to the channel and leave lots of comments on this video asking for part 2. One thing I can guarantee, things are going to get scarier and scarier.